Okay, I'm live in a different location. Look how messy this room is. This is the messiest room still in the house. It's like our spare room, you can see. Although I've put stuff on shelves, it's still in boxes. I have shot some of my videos in here. But this is probably, when it's properly set up, going to be my full-time studio. Hello Stephen, and hello Celtic King, and hello Aussie Brick Chick. Everyone's rolling in the door. Okay, so yes, I'm in a slightly different part of the house, accommodating everyone else in the house, basically. Let me just try something with my lighting. G'day Connor. I'm just going to try something over here. I'm not going far, I'm just... Okay. I don't know if that makes any difference at all. Okay. So here in the spare room in the house, which will probably ultimately be like a studio or showrooms, but it's not all unpacked yet. It's the usual for people who have been watching the live streams. I guess a lot of the time, Mrs. Angry and her son are in the next room playing Star Trek, as in watching Star Trek. They're watching some Deep Space Nine. They're getting towards the end of both Deep Space Nine and Voyager. They're watching Voyager now. But they'll be finished just in time for the new season to start later in the year. Now, and my daughter, young Ms. Angry, she's building her own computer. She decided that's what she was going to do. She has a job now, so she saved her own money, ordered all the components online, and is building her own PC out at the table where I often do the live streams from. There's slightly better Wi-Fi out there, but I don't seem to be having any problems in here, so that's good. Yeah, actually, if this goes well, if I don't have any problems with connectivity in here, I will probably do more of the live streams in here, because it is a bit more out of the way. When I'm in the kitchen, sometimes people want to get something from the kitchen and I'm in the way. So here, I'm not in the way. Connor, single entendre video with AZ. That's just like normal life with AZ. Not even bothering with subtlety or double entendres, just coming straight out and saying the thing you're doing. I did get the regular question again. How is AZ? He's quite well, I hope. I think there's a problem at the moment with his phone, actually. It just reminds me there's a thing I've got to sort out. It's one of those things where life complicates itself. I might have to try and get Jason on Facebook to get a communique, because something that was supposed to happen hasn't happened. It's all complicated with me moving house and phone bills and whatnot. But c'est la vie. He is hopefully fine. I haven't talked to him for a couple of days, but he's hopefully fine, and I will certainly find out. And as per usual, whenever everyone passes off good wishes to AIDS, I always pass them on to him, and he's always really appreciative of it. He feels the love. Hello, Evil, aka Steve. Oh dear. You're talking about people who I've interacted with for a long time, people remembering old videos. Look, I'm just coming up to my 11-year anniversary on YouTube. And some people have been watching basically the whole time. But you do things like travel around the world and occasionally meet people. Obviously I meet a lot of Australians who are YouTubers or who know me through YouTube, and occasionally when I travel I meet someone there. Evil Harb, who's there, aka Steve. One of my trips to the UK, we did a road trip together. We'd never actually met in real life. Just before I went over, he'd been posting how he'd done an impromptu road trip with a friend, and I just messaged and said something like, oh, well, that's not fair. You have to do a road trip with me as well when I get there. And so he said, okay. So we did. So we hired a car, and we started around Bath, which, the Cotswolds area, and then we, where did we go? I'm trying to remember, because I wanted to go up to Scotland. So we drove towards Scotland I think we stopped in Nottingham the first night. I know we spent one night in Nottingham. We spent 2 nights in Edinburgh. We spent one night in, I think, Manchester on the way back. And then got back to London and stayed in London. And we got fucking scuttered, shit-faced drunk every night and did live streams. And I never remembered them the next day. And Steve recorded some of them and put them on his YouTube channel. I would watch them back and go, I have no memory of that. I don't know what happened there. But we did that without ever having met each other and didn't murder each other. We had a great time. There was obviously a risk there, being in such constant contact for about 6 days with someone you'd never met before. But we had a great time. So that was one of those little internet adventures that paid off. There's a question of if I fumigated, I'll shed after a particular video I did with Corey. Well, I don't live there anymore. Whatever we said needed to be fumigated, we probably exaggerated for comedic effect. Some people seem shocked occasionally, and I don't think they're pretending. I think they're genuinely shocked when I tell them, when I pretend I'm telling the truth. Sometimes I'm just trying to adjust my lighting, a bit more light on my face. It's a bit unbalanced now, but at least there's a bit more light on my face. Yes, sometimes when I act as if I'm telling the truth, I'm actually exaggerating for comedic effect. But a lot of people say, like, are you really that angry? I hope he's able to overcome his anxiety. Well, Connor, in terms of a stage show doing again, anxiety is an issue, sure. Aidsy has more severe physical health issues than he did, was about 5 years ago. He did Code Grey. You know, one of the things we wanted to do with Code Grey, because it's such a good story, and in fact he had to contract the story a bit to fit into a 1-hour stage show. We wanted to do it as a web series, like write a series of 5 to 10 minute episodes and just keep going for as long as you needed to tell the story. And we wrote the first script or two. We actually applied for some funding from the Australia Council, which we didn't get, and we never went ahead. Now, I mean, you know, I kind of feel like one day we should just do it. Because while some of it might be difficult to stage, I mean, you could always do animation. I know a lot of people do animation. Aidsy put on a slightly racist Oriental mask. This is the thing, okay? I've done a couple of 1,000 videos, and often when people say, I remember the video, and I don't necessarily remember it. Like, I am trying to remember what slightly racist Oriental mask I had. I'm sure it happened, but I will just for a change be honest and say I can't specifically remember that. But yes, oh my God, give Aidsy a chance to be borderline racist and just upset people. He will do it. He will really do it, and just to test what people can actually deal with. I mean, back when he was a stand-up comedian, this is about 15 years ago, he was known as the mayor of Wrongtown because he just went to some very, very, very dark places. And when we've been out, maybe had a drink or two or something else to alter our consciousness, we've talked about maybe setting up a secret YouTube channel because we'd go to jail if it was actually traced back to us. But have conversations and say the worst, most abominable things we could think of, and then maybe post them to YouTube, like with not showing our faces and with voice modulators, so we had plausible deniability. And of course, for those who might know or might not know, for me the obvious inspiration for that is the Derek and Clive comedy that Peter Cook and Dudley Moore did in the 70s. I think it was the early 70s. If you've never heard Derek and Clive, it's two extremely well-known comedian actors from England, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, and they just got shit-faced drunk, went into a recording studio and started the tapes running and just made shit up off the top of their head. Evil Harp, you've got Derek and Clive. I think they got re-released quite recently, actually, because first they just recorded it and then they listened to the tapes back and went, well, we can't do anything with that, can we? We just can't. We'll go to jail if our names are attached to that. And nothing happened with it. But, of course, you know, studio engineers had access to the tapes and they would copy them and it went to friends. And apparently it became quite a thing for people to have heard Derek and Clive. And it was because it was studio engineers, they played it to some rock stars. And a lot of very big rock stars used to play it when they were on tour to, you know, spice themselves up, keep amused, either on the tour bus or backstage before a gig or whatnot. And years later, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore found out this tape they thought no one had heard, a bunch of people had heard, it became this cult underground hit. So they went, fuck it, and released it, and they did a couple. It was apparently ultimately a very strong source of falling out between Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, because when they did Derek and Clive, Dudley Moore was much more well known than... Sorry, Peter Cook was much more well known than Dudley Moore. But in the intervening years, Peter Cook's career sort of stagnated, and Dudley Moore's took off. And Peter Cook also was a fairly rampant alcoholic, I think, and he got a bit bitter and stuff. And some of the later stuff they did, the bitterness leaks out somewhat. So, yeah, it's not the happiest story, ultimately. But if you ever want to test your limits to see what you can listen to without getting offended, Derek and Clive is your go-to, because they just really went with the worst shit they could think of, and they just kept going. It's pretty impressive stream of consciousness stuff, because there was no scripting at all, and they burst into song every now and then. And there were a couple of funny bits where one of them will go off on a tangent and the other one thinks, oh, okay, you've gone too far, and we'll just be going, no, we'll come back from that, and it's not always the same one. Sometimes it's Dudley Moore's gone off and Peter Cook's going, oh, okay, that's probably enough of that, and the other time it's Peter Cook who's done it, Dudley Moore's going, oh, okay, no more of that. Yes, so Aidsy and I may yet one day record The Mayors of Wrongtown and release it. So look, there's all this stuff's being unpacked here. Something caught my eye. I just want to show. It's a super old phone. Look, oh my gosh, how good were? Oh, it's not even a flip phone. It's a sexy slide-out phone. It's an old Sony Ericsson, and they had their music player software in it, so it's got like a Walkman symbol on it as well. Wow. That must have just come out of a box. You know, it's been sitting in a box for 10 years. It's like, yeah, sexy phone. That was probably a super sexy phone. And it's useless shit now compared to things. But it's nice and sleek and slim. And yeah, it had Walkman software in it. But it was bugging me because I said, is that a phone? Is that a really old phone? Yes, it is. I just found it. So I just thought I'd share that with you. There are all sorts of weird things that I can fidget with and play with. Look. Oh, damn, I broke something. Anyway, Rainbow Slinky. Stephen, you can get cheap phones that are, they're not smartphones and just things. Just found the Jump song on YouTube. Yes, well, it all is. Look, this is my distraction. A Rainbow Slinky. I have no idea what that looks like on the stream, if it's coming across at all. But the oh man, there's lots of good stuff to fidget with around here, quite honestly. But yes, so yes, I really hope AZ does come over at some point where we can do a live stream because he really enjoys doing this sort of thing and improvising and interacting with people, and I think viewers would appreciate it too. Ooh, I wonder if, look, I'm going to show you other weird things that are just sitting around because it was semi-unpacked in here. I think this is mine? Paper clips? Or is it? No, this is boring ones. Oh no, yeah, I think it's one of the things. I like this. It's only got some of them in it. This is the actual clean one, where you arrange your work with paper clips. The thing like, you know, this is a thing that says this week. That's stuff you have to do this week. But if it's not as important, you put it on the someday tag. I have another set somewhere that just say things like fuck this and bullshit. For paperwork you really don't want to deal with. So I even got, I'm fascinated with things like, I got a little self-inking stamper from the same place, I think, that just says fuck off. And for ages when I was going to meetups and stuff and giving it, you know, people do business cards. I had AngryAussie cards that had my YouTube channel on it. I would have this self-inking stamper with me, and I'd also just stamp them and add a fuck off to it. Because I'm angry. I'm the angry Aussie. I'm not going to be angry to people. In fact, one of the cards, probably still got it around somewhere, that I quite liked. It was a design of one of the cartoons someone had done of me, and the writing on it just said, the bearer of this card is sick of your bullshit. And then the flip side just said AngryAussie, and had my YouTube channel on it. I think it had the old Angry phone number as well, which I don't use anymore, which would be the main reason I stopped handing those cards out, because they had an incorrect phone number on them. But I went through a whole phase of getting stuff printed from an online printing thing, because it was really cheap and it was fun, and I was just designing all these things, different cards, postcards. I kept meaning to send postcards to people because I had all these postcards made up, and then because I ordered a couple things, then they'd give me bonus and free things. So I've got AngryAussie fridge magnets, and not just small. I do have some small ones. I have little sort of business card sized AngryAussie fridge markets, but I have a big one. Patman Sport. I don't use an Angry phone at all now. I don't know. I just stopped. It's not that I didn't like it, because I actually did, because people would randomly ring it, and it was fun to have conversations. But you know, you go through phases. Something that's fun for a while, you go, okay, I'm kind of bored with that now. But obviously, I mean, I can still use those cards because there's my YouTube channel on it. I just have to cross out the phone number, because that won't connect to anything anymore, because I let that lapse a long time ago. So yes, just one of those things go through. I might get some done up, because of course the VidCon is on in Australia later this year, in Melbourne, my town, in fact. And so I'll be going along to that and interacting with a bunch of people. So it might be good to have some cards to hang out. So I might either get some new ones or just find out how usable the old ones are with the wrong phone number, but when you have the right email address and the right YouTube channel on them. I even had the little QR code, not on all of them I don't think, but on some of them had a QR code, so you could scan it with your mobile and it would go straight to my YouTube channel, because that's the wonderful piece of technology there. QR codes, everyone's really down on QR codes, and they're not really used much anymore. Like, for a moment it seemed like they were going to be a thing, and then they weren't a thing. What does everyone think about QR codes? You know, is that so people can scan them with a phone and go straight to a website? because they never really took hold. They were almost a thing for a while. Now I'm pretty sure they've faded away. Hardly anyone uses them, and I see people ragging on QR codes all the time. Any insight into Fear the Walking Dead? I haven't watched the episode yet, so no spoilers, or I'll not just block you, I'll hunt you down and kill you. So yes, I haven't watched the new episode of Fear the Walking Dead yet, because I was busy last night. They're recorded. Would I ever resurrect the angry phone? Maybe. Also because, I haven't really done it for a couple of years. I might redo it. Heine, you mean, okay, what are you actually asking, Heine, about Fear the Walking Dead? That was a very ambiguous statement. I'm not sure what you are actually asking about Fear the Walking Dead. Yeah, Connor, QR codes I do still see around, but I thought they were going to be big because I kind of thought they were kind of like particularly on outdoor advertising. If someone's got a phone and scare it, it has a lot of potential. Okay, Heine, you're asking, is it as good as the comics? Okay, Fear the Walking Dead, for those who don't know, is a companion series to The Walking Dead, which is based on a comic that's been run for a really long time. The comic ran for about 4 or 5 years at least before the show started, and the comic's still running. I still get the comic. The original series, The Walking Dead, it starts with our protagonist Rick waking up in hospital about a week after the zombie apocalypse went large, and everything's gone to hell, and he wakes up and he doesn't know what's going on because there's no one around. The Fear the Walking Dead was set in Los Angeles, and it was before the zombie outbreak happened. So it starts, everything's fine, and then slowly things start to happen, and then of course it hits critical mass, zombies everywhere, people on the run. So Fear the Walking Dead has quite a different vibe to The Walking Dead, because you were with these people from the start, and there are a couple of different families, and it's showing how things broke down when the zombie apocalypse kicked into high gear, and it's interesting. I like it. They've got some interesting characters. They do a bunch of dumb shit, as people do. I don't know how these people would survive so long. I think I saw a joke in a horror movie once that was like a zombie movie, and someone was making a really stupid suggestion, and like the nerd in the group went, "Oh my god, it's like you've never seen a zombie movie. You'll be dead in 5 minutes if you do that." Because that does seem to be an almost universal thing in zombie movies and zombie TV shows. The people in it have never watched a zombie movie, because they don't seem to have a clue on how to deal with The Walking Dead. Yeah, I quite like Fear the Walking Dead. I'll be interested to see what they do with the new season, because it's just getting to the point where people have to get desperate. The survivors, people were desperate because everyone's been killed by zombies, but the survivors are just getting to the point where it's more likely that they will kill another non-zombie, another human, to protect themselves, because people are just getting more aggressive, more feral, and more desperate. So even your supposed good guys are getting more likely to kill a non-zombie person. So it's getting interesting, like who's going to go, because it's almost a cheat with The Walking Dead. Rick is the protagonist. He's not going to die, and Carl, his son, probably isn't either. But in Fear the Walking Dead, the protagonist is not as clear. They've kind of messed with you on who the protagonist is. And and so it's not as clear who's the person who can't die, because like both shows will on a semi-regular basis kill off someone who was a fairly core character. I'll go off on a tangent here. The end of a recent series of The Walking Dead was the events that happened in issue 100 of the comics. Namely, that Glenn got killed by a super bad guy called Negan. Got his brain smashed in with a baseball bat, wrapped in barbed wire. So, and honestly, a lot of the bleating that happened after that went to air on TV was dumb as shit. Like people saying, "Oh, I'm never going to watch the show. You're just going to kill off characters I'm invested with." The whole thing is it's horror survival. And if you think that the entire core cast is completely safe and can't ever die, there's no fucking point in watching, because they're not at risk. So the killing of Glenn is interesting to see the writer Robert Kirkman say Glenn was a really tough call, but how he'd seen the story going in his head so much relied on Glenn being killed, because Glenn was in the first issue, was in the first episode of the TV show. It had to have such impact on the other characters. It drives a lot of what comes next. Aussie Brickchick, you're asking about Judith and being dead and whatnot. The interesting thing is there are key differences between the TV show and the comic. There are characters in the TV show, like everyone's favourite Daryl, who don't exist in the comic. And some of the characters in the comic were very different when they're in the TV show. Some of the characters got killed in the comic and didn't get killed in the TV show. Some of the characters in the TV show got killed and they didn't get killed in the comic, and their relationships are really different. So, for instance, no one who watched the TV show liked the character Andrea, who got killed off ages ago after ill-advised sort of involvement with oh god, what was his name? The governor. Aussie Brickchick, good question. Why did they keep Judith? Judith is Rick's baby daughter. In the TV show, the mother died in childbirth, but the baby survived. In the comic, the mother survived childbirth when they were trying to escape the jail after the governor's mob overran it. Someone shot the mother and the bullet travelled straight through and killed the baby as well. And that was pretty hardcore. But yes, they've kept the baby, and that's really interesting, because that's a baby, while being a symbol of hope, is obviously a huge vulnerability as well. Baby can't fend for themselves, and also you're more likely to put yourself at risk to try and save a baby. It's very interesting that they kept it. It's a different sort of danger. Baby can't look after themselves, and baby's more likely to make you take a terrible risk. So it's it's a different weakness, and or is it a strength? That's the thing. This is what it always comes down to with the sort of utilitarian decisions you make in this post-apocalypse world. Is caring for someone else a weakness? Like, does it put you at risk? Or is it a strength, because that's how human society develops, looking after people, strong actually caring for the weak rather than strong crushing the weak. So it's got that moral and social dilemma in there. So it's not. It makes things less cut and dried. Yeah, in the comic, Maggie has a kid who's started to grow up, because the comic is years ahead of the TV show. So yeah, people wondering, oh, how long's the Walking Dead TV show going to go? Well, the comic's still going strong, and it has storyline for years to come. It's very interesting because Negan and the War with the Saviors is a very big plot point. Will last at least one more season before it gets resolved. And they've also been doing that differently in the TV show than they had in the comic. Some stuff was the same, but some stuff was different. So who knows what's going to happen in the next season of The Walking Dead. But that was a very big plotline. Like, Negan is a super awesome bad guy, and it was kind of like, well, after that, what the hell do you do next? And they've come up with the next major nemesis that was actually pretty damn good, known as the Whisperers. But Robert Kirkman, who writes the comics, and I think he's like executive producer on the TV show assistant to the show, and might write some of the episodes. He's pretty goddamn inventive. He also wrote a comic series, which is also a TV series, called Outcast, which I watch. I have got some Outcast comics that were given to me. I haven't read them yet. They're in one of those boxes. I'll have to find them and start reading them. But I do watch the TV show Outcast. It's not bad. I'm not completely sold on it. I think the pacing might be a bit slow, because even 2-3 seasons in, they haven't really explained what's actually happening. So and that's an interesting approach to take, because it initially appears to be about demonic possession, but it seems like, strictly speaking, it's not demonic. Who's more angry? AngryAussie, Angry Anderson, or Aggro of Cartoon Connection? Well, Angry Anderson is just a racist dwarf. He's not really angry. He's bitter and nasty and awful and hateful. I always had a soft spot for Aggro from Cartoon Connection. For anyone who's not an Australian of a certain age, it was a kids show, afternoon show, called Cartoon Connection, and there was a glove puppet called Aggro, who, let's be honest, was an Oscar the Grouch knockoff. A bit more crass and a bit more Australian than Oscar the Grouch, but an Oscar the Grouch knockoff. Aggro is pretty funny. Although he was called Aggro, I don't even think he was that angry. I mean, obviously, I'm sitting here not being angry, but I can go on a good old tear of the shouting and the swearing when I want to. Aggro is more funny than angry. You're right, Aussie Brick Chick. Aggro is particularly crass for kids. The weirdest thing for me is, after he went off TV, they had Aggro as an announcer on a radio station in Brisbane, and I found that so surreal, because it was the guy, I forget, the guy's name's Jamie something, who does the voice, and so he was on a radio show being Aggro, but like, Aggro's a character and he was a puppet, and of course on radio all you get's the voice. And I was like, what? How what? And I guess it works because he's a character, but I always found it really surreal that a puppet had a radio show where you couldn't see he was a puppet. It's just really weird. But as far as I know, he still does it. I know he did it for years and it was quite successful. As far as I know, he still does it. You know what that made me think of? I've got something in my eye. That made me think of classic old-timey ventriloquists. Jamie Dunn is still on Brisbane radio. Big Bad Ads. Does he do it as Aggro or is he Jamie Dunn? Because Jamie Dunn and Aggro, he's not a ventriloquist. It wasn't a guy sitting there going, it was a puppet. So he was under the desk with his hand over the desk doing the thing. And it reminded me of very famous ventriloquist puppet guy from the mid-early 20th century. Bergen, was it Edgar Bergen, Candice Bergen's dad, and he did it for radio and did public, and he had a couple puppets. His most famous one was Charlie McCarthy, I think, but I was aware of his existence because like even before I was born. That's how long ago it was, kids. It was before I was born. I was aware of his existence and I knew that he was regarded as a big legend, but I saw him once on TV doing the puppet thing, and he wasn't a ventriloquist, because a ventriloquist doesn't move their lips. He would put voices on, but he's not even attempting to hide his lips. He's just going, "What are you doing, Charlie McCarthy?" "Well, Edgar, I'm doing this." And I'm like, wait, no, what? That's not how it works. But then I realised, because he did it on radio, he just came up with these characters for radio. He wasn't a ventriloquist. He was a voice actor. And he brought in the ventriloquist dummies later, but he wasn't a ventriloquist. He never did the "my lips aren't moving" thing. He just talked with a... It was really weird. It was quite disconcerting to me, because I thought he was a ventriloquist, and he wasn't. He was just a puppet guy. Sort of almost as cheesy as they are, I like good ventriloquists. And I have seen a couple of people still do ventriloquism. If you go to comedy nights, every now and then there'll be an act who's a ventriloquist. It's still around. Good old cabaret vaudeville style acts. And of course, they tend to, they're a bit edgier these days, usually. Some of them are obviously terrible, but that goes for comedy generally. Oh my God, I saw this thing, I was like watching TV and I was watching a Comedy Central special, it was a comedy special, and I recognised the guy. I've seen him on things. I don't even really know his name, but I thought, I'll watch this. I like comedy specials. And I was watching it, and this guy, it's just one of those ones. He's one of the sort of more crass, I'm not politically correct American comedians. And it's like, that's supposed to be edgy or something. But I fucking shit you not, one of his jokes, the punchline, and I'm not paraphrasing, was, "If you drink wine, you're gay. If you're a man who drinks wine, you're gay." Like, that was a joke. I was like, and I guess there was a bit from the audience because he carried the audience along, and I guess a part of their laugh was "Oh, you can't say that. Oh," but I was just sitting there going, what? Like, I wasn't offended. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't, "You can't say that." I was like, that's not funny. Like, I guess, I don't know, in the 70s, in the 1970s, you could have had a whole routine about drinking wine is fruity and only the gays do it, and people would have thought you were funny and edgy. But I was looking, and this was not very old. This was done in the last couple of years, and I'm not even paraphrasing. The punchline was, "If you drink wine, you're gay." And I was like, what? Aren't you meant to be being funny? Aren't you meant to be surprising me? Aren't you meant to do something edgy? It's like, being a pathetic prick is not funny. It was just, what? It was really weird. I mean, for instance, I'll admit to a weak spot for South Park. I haven't watched a lot of the most recent series, but I've seen South. I still like South Park. I mean, when I say like, I don't mean like I religiously love it and think they're flawless and can do no wrong. I think occasionally they miss the mark really badly and some of their jokes are quite stupid. But generally speaking, particularly for how long they've been doing it and the way they do it, I think they do quite well. I think most of the time when they go after their targets in their trademark, very crass way, their targets fucking deserve it. Even if their targets are people I like or at least don't hate, quite often when they really go them, I look and go, bleep, that's fair. That is quite fair. You know, they were asking for that. Like there was a ridiculous one a couple of years ago where they had Hillary Clinton in it, and she's on the campaign trail, and this is when she was campaigning against Obama, in fact. That's how old it is. She's on the campaign trail, and she panders to a southern crowd by putting on this fake southern accent, which is the thing she really did in real life when she was in the South. Yeah, the one with a snook. The nuke in her sniz, a snook. And that was a thing she really did in real life. She went to the South and did this abominable pandering with a fake southern accent. And like when she did that for real, I was just, what the fuck? And when I saw it on South Park, I laughed and went, yeah, she deserves it. Make fun of her for that. That was a fucking terrible thing to do. And yeah, as saying Matt Parker and Trey Stone are funny. They are funny. I like it when they're interviewed. Like a making of thing they did a couple of years ago, which I really enjoyed. And of course they did the Book of Mormon as well, which seems to be like by far the most successful new musical of the last bloody 20 years. Like, it's huge. It's amazingly successful. And everyone who's seen it says it's great. I don't really go to musical theatre myself. But I think I could be convinced to go to that. But they do good songs. Like the old South Park movie and Team America World Police. When they do songs, they do good songs. They or whoever writes the songs for them are good songwriters. I think there's no two ways about it. Like, they actually won an Academy Award for Best Song for that Blame Canada song from... oh, my light's flaking out. The Blame Canada song from the South Park movie. When they famously went to the Academy Awards in drag on acid. And they upset everyone in Hollywood for that, because everyone in Hollywood takes the Academy Awards very seriously because they all want one. And these guys who got their moment at the Academy Awards and clearly didn't take it seriously, that genuinely upset a lot of people, which is why they're all... Well, okay, it's one of two reasons why they're always shitting all over Hollywood. 3 reasons. That's one reason, because the people were meant to. Second is because people in Hollywood basically deserve it. Third is they don't believe in unions. And the South Park show is a non-union show. In fact, I don't think if you work on South Park, because you have to basically go against the union to work on South Park, then I think you can't get a union job anywhere if you work on South Park. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think it was the case. I don't know if it still is. They might have brokered a truce at one point. But yeah, the South Park guys don't believe in unions, and so they refuse to go along with any of the union rules, which made them a bunch of enemies. So they semi-regularly rag on entertainment industry unions and associations. So there's a couple of reasons the South Park guys always shit on Hollywood. Big Bad Ads thinks I'm a musical theatre guy. I'm a theatre guy, just not a musical theatre guy. As I've said, and I think that's where Aidsy and I met. We did the same theatre course at uni, although I'm a little bit older than him, so my last year was his first year. But that's where we met. We did the same course at uni, and that course involved a lot of improvisation, which turns out to be very good for YouTube. Like things like this. Why can I talk stream of consciousness for an hour or two? I actually had a lot of training in improvisation. Hey, look, so I've been talking about just general stuff and light stuff. And I said this month I'm trying to do video every day, video every day in June if nothing erases. Hey there, Abigail. And so probably at least every second day is going to be live, because live is in some respects easier to do. But I also, when I do the live things, I often want to try out. There's an idea of what I want to do. And in light of, we seem to be unable to get away from terrorism and violent attacks. What I wanted to do, I want to make a video where the title will basically be, why can't we have a sensible discussion about terrorism? Because it is really hard to have a sensible discussion on terrorism. People of every political persuasion derail it, and so many people say stuff that's dumb as shit. Like, Ira, I just got to ask, will the masks ever reappear? Maybe. So, but the terrorism thing, particularly the conservative crowd who want to make great big pronouncements, and particularly people who will say shit as stupid as, not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims, because they refuse to call acts of terror perpetrated by white people terrorism, but they also then want to call any crime committed by a Muslim an act of terrorism, which is stupid on a number of levels. First, because I just fucking hate hypocrisy. Like, there are people who scream and foam at the mouth about how if a Muslim kills one person, that's definitely terrorism, but they refuse to call the massacre by Anders Breivik terrorism, despite the fact that is literal textbook terrorism. It was politically motivated and was a deliberately provocative act designed to provoke a response and advance a political agenda. The absolute definition of terrorism. And look, someone just saying what I was going to get to. There was a killing in Brighton, which literally, it's the next suburb from where I live. It happened on the street where I like to go to the movies, and my favourite Indian restaurants there. So it's an area I'm very familiar with. And this is what happened. This one fuckwit is a Somali refugee who resettled in Australia when he was very little, and he's gone off the rails. He started to hang out with a very bad crowd. Part of the group he was with actually did plot an attack on army bases in Australia. 5 people went to trial, 3 were convicted. He was one of 2 who were found not guilty, and he was assessed to not be a high risk on the terrorism front, but he's a fuck up. Like, he became a drug addict and a violent petty criminal, and went to jail for several violent robberies. And so he was out of jail on bail. And when you look at what happened, he's a sad, pathetic fucking loser who wanted to feel like a big man. He'd clearly decided to do suicide by cop, because it was very weird. Like, he was almost definitely on drugs at the time. He had a gun, or more than one gun. He'd hired an escort. I don't know, he wanted to have one last night or whatever, but he also wanted her as a hostage, as it turns out. He killed some poor bastard who worked in the serviced apartments where he'd taken the escorts, and that's just shit. And I do want to add here, no one should take any of this as me having any sympathy for this piece of shit, because he's fucking garbage. He's just a piece of shit, and no defense for what he did. So he's he's taken an escort to an apartment, and then he's called a TV station to say, "Oh, I'm doing this for ISIS." And this is how you can tell he's a fuckwit, because he says, "I'm doing this for ISIS and Al Qaeda." He's just grabbing at things, trying to make something up, because ISIS and Al Qaeda hate each other and are trying to kill each other. So he's clearly had no contact with either ISIS or Al Qaeda, or he'd know you don't say that because they hate each other. So Wangberger, if you want to be a cunt, be a cunt, but fuck off if you think I'm going to pay attention to you. He's basically a pathetic, broken loser, drug addict, and he wants to feel like a big man. And because a whole bunch of fuckwits in the world pay attention if you say, "I'm doing this for Islam," and everyone pays attention to you, that's what he did. And it's interesting, the fact that he didn't kill his hostage, but he just ran out into the cops shooting. His plan clearly all along was suicide by cop. Basically, he's a colossal fuck up. Wangberger, you're a shit-eating, worthless cunt, and you are going the fuck away, you fucking piece of shit. God. So, I got that out of myself. But yeah, this bugs the shit out of me. You can't have a sensible conversation. Why the fuck are you... Particularly, it's not just that what this guy doesn't match any sensible description of terrorism, but when big events happen, like awful crimes, like the attack in Manchester, the attacks that have happened in London, yes, obviously, definitely terrorism. But when I look at how the media, politicians, and public commentators act, I was going, okay, why are you people doing exactly what the terrorists want? And I'm not thinking that on my own. This is the actual communiques from people like ISIS. This is what they want. They want media coverage. They want non-Muslims to hate Muslims. They want complete separation. They want complete war between Muslims and non-Muslims. And they want to terrify the populace. How do you terrify the populace? By having a non-stop 24-hour loop of playing the horror of the thing over and over and over and over. So every time something like this happens, you get the media, you get the politicians, you get the public commentators doing literally exactly what the terrorists want them to do. James, do I think our authorities should be doing more to protect us? Well, that is an impossible to define thing. I mean, how do you do more to protect us? Maybe, and this is, okay, the second thing that bugs the shit out of me about discussions about terrorism, that's so hard to have a sensible discussion on this, is people seem to have no understanding of cause and effect. Now, there's no justification for these attacks that we see, but do people really think that the invasion and bombing of Muslim countries isn't a contributing factor? They're saying, should our governments keep us safer? Well, maybe not fucking doing all this shit with invasions and bombing and killing hundreds of thousands of civilians, and that isn't an exaggeration, it's probably an understatement. Since the Iraq invasion, the death toll for civilians has been somewhere from the hundreds of thousands to over 1 million. So do you really think that's not... So if the government should be keeping us safer, maybe the government shouldn't fucking be doing that bullshit, okay? And you point that out, and you get these foaming at the mouth conservatives going, you're on the terror side. No, I'm not. They're fucking shit-eating, murdering scumfucks. There's no excuse for what they do. Cause and effect is an excuse, but it's a straight line. But you go from here to here to here. This is what happens. And yes, pulling out all the military from those countries and doing something radical like stop funding Saudi Arabia, that would not stop every radical. There are some people who just hate other people. But the fact that when you try to have this discussion and say, well, maybe we shouldn't invade these countries, maybe we shouldn't bomb these countries, maybe we shouldn't kill these civilians, people act as if you're sympathising with the terrorists. They go, no, I think they're fucked. I also don't think we should be giving them the time of day and glorifying, like the Link Cafe siege that happened in Sydney a while back. Again, one sad fucking piece of shit. Yes, he was a Muslim. Yes, he said some dumb shit about Islam, but he was not part of any terrorist organisation. He was a nasty, violent, social misfit fuck-up, and he wanted glory, and he says, I know how I'll get everyone to pay attention to me. I'm going to go and take some hostages. He did it across the road from a TV station that he had a grudge with because he wanted them to see it and whatnot. Because that wasn't terrorism. That was a crime. That was a terrible crime. And calling him a terrorist and linking him to global jihadism, it's what he fucking wanted. He wanted to be a big man. He wanted to be the one who scares everyone. He was a fucking pathetic piece of shit. And insisting on, this is terrorism, this is global jihadism. That is exactly what these fucking pieces of shit are. What's this? Ledube, you've institutionalised and you're having trouble with connection. That was a big comment and it faded away before I read it all. So I kind of want to make a video about this, and it's going to make people go spare. But like the big points I want to go is, why do media, government, public commentators do exactly what terrorists want them to do? Why are people so bad at understanding cause and effect? That if you invade these countries, if you bomb these countries, if you put sanctions on them and starve these people and destroy these countries and kill civilians, there's gonna be some blowback. And you get these complete fucking animals who go, oh, we should torture them, we should kill their families. Do you honestly think that makes you safer? If you're actively promoting the murder and torture of civilians, do you honestly think that makes you safer? It's like, do you not get that takes people who are moderate or on the border and pushes them to extremism because you killed their fucking family, because you tortured their neighbours, because you say around the world that they're an animal and should be wiped out? They've got nothing left to lose. How the fuck do people not get that is making it worse? And my other big point is, why are people so bad at risk assessment? Yes, acts of terrorism are really scary. And when it happens in a public place, maybe a place you've been, that's really scary and unsettling. Oh God, that could have been me. They look at those poor innocent people who were just having a good night out and that happened. And it's really scary, but the risk is actually so tiny. And again, when you bring this up, people saying, oh, you're saying terrorists aren't bad. No, it is bad. It's awful. But to pour all your focus into it, which is exactly what the terrorists want, when, way more people are killed on the roads, way more people are killed in domestic violence by people they know, and an actual real statistic that doesn't stop blowing my mind. In America, with all the fear culture around terrorism, oh, we've got to stop refugees will kill us. More people are killed by toddlers with guns than they are by terrorists. The whole thing about, oh, we should block people from these countries who have never killed anyone in America, but don't do anything about gun control, despite the fact there are thousands of people killed every year. But no, there are some isolated incidents where people get killed, and that's terrifying and scary, and we should do crazy things in response to that. But ignore the fact that you are actually more likely to be killed by a toddler with a gun. Like, people's ability to assess risk is so bad. And none of this is saying don't do anything about terrorism. I'm all for bloody punishing. Well, actually, and I'll go on a limb, fucking shits me. You know the old thing of homegrown jihadis, like someone who's, if not born, raised in a Western country and treated well and has all the benefits of that country and then kills people. Fuck those fucking people. I fucking hate that. I mean, I'm not on the side of someone from another country who's been bombed and had their family killed and whatnot. I'm not on their side when they decide to kill people with terrorist acts either. But, as I said, cause and effect, you can see it. But someone who's raised in a Western country and has all the benefits, but just wants to feel like a great big man, and they're the big terrorist hero, fuck those pieces of shit. I mean, come down on them like a ton of bricks. They're fucking garbage. But the risk is so low. Like, you're way more likely to get hit by a car or just have a heart attack or fall off you're more likely to fall off a ladder and break your neck. You know, you're more likely to die in the bathroom by slipping over. It's just, every conversation about terrorism just devolves into craziness. Ugh. Anyway, that's probably the next pre-recorded video I'm going to make, possibly as early as tomorrow. Big Bad Dads, you asked me if I ever watched The Young Turks. No, I mean, I'm aware of them and I have watched them bits, but I don't watch them. In fact, this is guilty confession time. I hardly watch any YouTube videos these days. I used to watch, hours every day, and just with, changing circumstance and stuff, I don't do it as much. I probably should do more. So, yes, I can't, although broadly the Young Turks politics are obviously, in the same ballpark as mine. But I think the one time I've watched one of their videos because of what someone told me about it and made a video saying they were dickheads is when they called an Australian KFC ad racist because it was for when the West Indies were touring Australia and KFC was sponsoring the cricket. And there's a guy, an Australian supporter, who accidentally ends up at the West Indian supporters' end, and he's wearing the Australian colours. He's like, oh no. And he's got a bucket of chicken with him that he was eating, and he's going, I have to get on everyone's good side. So he shares the KFC with the West Indian supporters. And the Young Turks went on and on about how racist this was, the black people fried chicken stereotype. And I was like, okay, it's an Australian ad. That isn't even a stereotype here, okay? It just isn't. People didn't know what you were talking about. That isn't a stereotype. We have different racist stereotypes for black people. There was chicken in the ad because it was a chicken ad. There were black people in the ad. It's because they were West Indian supporters and the KFC was sponsoring the West Indian cricket tour. It was just like, how are you not going to have black people and chicken? That was so dumb. Okay, a couple questions. My background, you must have come in late. I'm in a different room. This is my spare room where all the junk still is. Yeah, okay. Actually, we do have coon cheese. That's the thing. I've seen so many people, black people from America, when they visit Australia, posing with coon cheese that they've found in a supermarket, just going, the fuck? And Australian goes, what's your problem? It's just named after the bloke who invented it. It says coon in big letters on the cheese. That's what the problem is. That's what the problem is. Oh my God. Yeah, no, that's dodgy as hell. And the question has popped up a couple of times, any more collabs on the horizon? I definitely want to, and I keep talking to various people about doing collabs, and I haven't actually organised them yet. Some with people who you will have seen before, but some with new people as well. And I have some very specific ideas that I've had for a while that I really need to act on that involve a gorilla suit and a banana suit. I have this idea for a series of sketches with that. See, I don't know that the process is called cooning, but there was a chemist who worked for the Kraft. Well, it wasn't Kraft cheese back in that day, I don't think. Kraft's the American company that bought it, but he worked for the cheese company, and he developed this particular tasty cheese that he put his name on. Kuhn was his name. I think it was Edward Kuhn or something. But it's There's no doubt about it. When people from the rest of the world come here and see a whole shelf of things labelled Coon, they tend to look and go, what now? What? And Australians think it's just a cheese, man. What's your problem? It is a really dodgy name for a product, but it's good again. Oh yeah, so you should subscribe to AngryAussie. She's cool. And we may do some more collabs with her. She wasn't making videos for a while, but she started again. She's someone I'd make another collab with because she's a lot of fun. Makes me look tall too, so I like that. Very few people make me look tall. Most people make me look short. It's kind of like someone else was talking about the collabs I did with Mr. Safety when he was out here. He scrunched down a bit because he's 6 foot. I'm 5'8", so I only come up to his shoulder. So for the videos to not look bloody ridiculous, he had to scrunch down a bit. But he's so much taller than me. But yes, so my ideal collab partner is my same height, like AZ. Oh, so you were talking about the football stadium. I actually made a video comparing the name Coon Cheese with the Nigger Brown football stadium in Queensland. And the idea, that was apparently this guy's nickname, you know, because his name's Brown, but he was white, and wacky racist humour. And the idea that people defended that, and some people defended it so hard, and it's like, no, that's fucking disgusting. It's not his name. That's a racist slur that you put on his nickname as a joke, but it's just a racist slur. That's all it ever was. And the fact that people defended that was bizarre, but they defended it, but it did get changed. Oh yeah, no, the size of my head is definitely the standout as opposed to my height or lack thereof. I'm still in contact with Corey through the social medias mostly. You know, we can Facebook message or instant message and that sort of thing. I'd really like to bring him and his new family out here, actually. And he's got a daughter and a wife. That would be fun because he really likes it here in Australia. But we'll try it, yeah. NFL Team Redskins goes on. Yeah, I don't know how much longer that can last because the groundswell against the NFL Team Redskins is really strong and everyone who defends it just sounds like an arsehole. But yeah, there are weird little pockets of this around the world and the people who defend it get so tetchy about it. They really don't like it when you say, no, that's like mind-bogglingly offensive what you're doing there. No, it's not. It's tradition. It's a racist tradition, okay? That's what it is. Oh dear. Would I like to go to Alaska to visit Corey? I'd have to do that fast because they're moving again, I think. They're moving away from Alaska. Best thing with Americans are weird snacks. It is. I mean, it's funny with the different snack foods in Australia and America because I love going to America or England or somewhere and just trying all the stuff you can't get here or you don't usually see here. But you get used to particular things and you regard them as normal. Then someone comes from somewhere else and looks at it and thinks, what the hell is that? That's really weird. And it's kind of fun seeing people's reactions to things. But look, this has been shorter than my other live streams because I started later. But I am going to finish up here. Got a few things to do before going to bed. So thank you for coming along. And I feel like I had a good practice run at my terrorism one. So that might go live as soon as tomorrow. But that's definitely something I want to talk about. Like, why can't we have a sensible discussion about terrorism? Because that is so difficult. So, Megaleech, you missed it. Look, if you missed it, it'll be up on my YouTube channel. Do my kids ever come on my YouTube video? No, I'd like to let them have their privacy, quite honestly. Side note, those people who do the family videos and put their kids in them all the time, that gives me the creeps. I mean, look, it's their life and that's all well and good. And some of them I'm quite good friends with. But I look at it and go, oh, I really worry about the risk factor there. And I just respect my kids' privacy and don't want people who attack me to attack them. I'd like them to have a much more normal life than that. But yes, Okay. I will be back later. Tomorrow, I'm determined to really give it a go. Still only in the first week of a video every day in June, if nothing arises. So either another live stream or a pre-recorded video tomorrow. I don't want to stumble this early in the month. We'll see if I can make it for the whole month. And I will see you all later. I hope you can join me again. Thanks a lot for joining in. Bye.